Now let's talk about one of the most common utilities in crypto, staking. There are 4 fundamental questions that you need to understand when it comes to figuring out whether you should implement staking, and if so, how to implement it. Why, who, what, where. So, well, there's also how, and I'll explain maybe a little bit of that later on in the video. In fact, let's just start it here. Bonus question, how. So, when it comes to the why are you staking? Right, there are 2 answers here. Number 1, either you have a proof of stake consensus mechanism, right? So you need people to stake in order to be validators, so that if they're malicious, then they get slashed. You need that in a decentralized system. That is the only way that you can ensure that you can, well, you're rewarding people with newly minted tokens, that's fine, but this is the way that you ensure that people are not malicious actors, because you can't block wallets, right? You can't block bank accounts, you can't report people, it's decentralized. You don't know who they are, you just have a wallet address. So in proof of stake, you need to align incentives, especially when it comes to, well, particularly when it comes to validators, right? So you stake for that, completely fine, completely normal. But most projects have staking for some sort of affiliation or rewards. Now, what I mean by that is you don't need staking in your system, but you want to create a token sink, as in you want to make sure that people are buying the token and holding it. But you want to reward them for that, right? You need to make sure that there is a reason for why they're doing it. So you give them some sort of rewards, maybe you give them some sort of revenue sharing APY, maybe bonuses on the platform. That aligns incentives, because from their angle, they're buying and holding the token and staking it, and let's say locking it out for some months, whatever it is, they get a benefit. They get either a direct reward or they get some sort of access or a benefit, whatever else. From your side, because people are buying and holding the token, of course, that means the token price will be going up. That means that you can either sell some more tokens from the treasury. Maybe it means that you can get listed on a bigger exchange. Maybe you can get an OTC investment, whatever it is. But it's a benefit for the company if a lot of people are buying and holding the token. So it's a win-win, right? The problem is later on, people don't think about who they're rewarding and what the rewards are and where they come from. And that is what this primarily video is going to be about. So, who are you rewarding? Right? There are 2, this is a more simple question. There are 2 answers here. Either you're rewarding the validators, of course, right, as we discussed, the validators for your proof of stake consensus mechanism, or you're rewarding people, other people in your project, right, in your ecosystem. You're rewarding people who are just using the product or who are staking, whatever it is, right? But you're rewarding users. And the question becomes, what are the rewards, right? And these 2 are somewhat tied together because you see how earlier, just a second ago, I said you're rewarding users. Well, that's not always the case, because your users are not always token holders, right? And your token holders are not always users. I have a big article on that. If you want to read it, check it out. I might do a video on it for this course as well. But users are not always token holders. And what that means is, for example, if your reward, right, if your reward over here is, let's say, a discount, right? If your reward is discount, so you stake 10 tokens and you get a 1% discount on your trading fees. Random people are not going to be staking, right? This is purely directly for your users. If I'm using the product, right, where let's say it's an exchange or something like that, and I'm trading and I'm getting a discount on the fees, I am the user. I am the exact person that you would like to then also buy the token and stake it, and I get a discount. It's a win-win. However, a lot of projects reward stakers with just some sort of yield, and that is where the problem comes in, because this is not great in the vast majority of cases. For validators, completely fine, right? They are earning a yield, but they're providing a service. For most stakers, earning a yield doesn't really make sense. Yes, a second ago I said that you are getting a benefit. You are, incentivizing people to buy the token and stake it, and that allows you to maybe sell some tokens, get on bigger exchanges, whatever. Sure. But the problem with just giving out a yield is the free rider problem. Your users are not always your token holders, and your token holders are not always your users. What I mean by that is, I, a random person, right, can come onto this exchange or onto this project. I can buy the token, I can stake the token in the staking portal or whatever, and I am now earning a percent. I, in 6 months' time, will then sell the token plus all my percentages, all my yield. I'm going to dump it onto the market. Give me 6 months, give me 4 months, 3 months, whatever. That is what happens. People leave. They join the ecosystem. It's new and shiny. They get the rewards. They farm that yield, and then they leave. Right? So your token price, whilst it was going up initially in the first couple of months, then just tanks. Because as soon as it starts tanking, my 6 months will be cut down into 3 months, right? Let's say this happens 3 months in. I'm leaving. I'm seeing the token dump. So if I stay in here, then this value will go down, and therefore I would have actually lost money. So I'm cashing out. So this fall actually goes something like this, and then you're down to here. This is not great, but this is what happens to most projects for this exact reason. They're offering a yield to people who have never used their product, right? They're not giving the company any revenue. They're not creating any sort of value for the equity of the company. They're not even an account on the platform or whatever it is that the project is. They're just a token holder, right? And the short-term benefit, yeah, sure, the short-term benefit is clear, but you need to make sure, and I'll talk about this in let's say the video, you need to make sure that you convert these people into users, and that is very difficult, right? It's very difficult to convert me. I'm just here for the yield. I don't care about your new project. I don't care, right? I'm just there to farm, and then I'm going to leave. So giving people yield just for staking doesn't make sense, because you are rewarding people who have never given you any value to the project. So again, to reiterate, if the rewards for staking are not monetarily direct, if they are a discount on trading fees, or earlier access to something, or an ability to maybe change your account in some way, or adapt your strategy on your DeFi platform, whatever it is, if it's benefits for the product, that's fine. You are aligning your users with the staking, because it's only users that will find value in this. However, if you're offering yield, like the vast majority of projects do, that's not good, right? Unless your yield is directly tied to your users. Like for example, in proof of stake, again, right? Your yield is directly tied to people who are providing direct value to the platform. They're using the platform. If the yield is tied like that, then that's fine. For example, you can earn a higher yield if you stake the token and participate in governance, or something like that, right? That's okay. You've tied the two things together. But if it's just yield, if it's just revenue sharing, right? If it's just some sort of APY, that's not good. You're not tying the users to the token holders. So that's the problem. So avoid that. Now, where are the rewards coming from is also an equally important question. Because let's say we are talking about the discounts, the earlier access, whatever. Those are just benefits, right? That's fine. That's good. Question 4 does not apply to that. But when we're talking about yield in particular, where is that coming from? Right? You have 3 options. You either mint it, you either tax people, or you do buybacks. So for minting, of course, it's quite obvious. You literally just mint the token and then you give it to the user. For taxes, it's whenever your users are transacting on your platform, on your ecosystem, whatever, you're taxing them. There is like a 1% fee on stuff. And then what you do is you then take that fee and you redirect it to the stakers. And then for buybacks, it's similar. Your users are transacting on your platform, and then you take a fee, but the fee is in dollars. Or maybe there is some other way for you to earn money. And then you take that, you then buy the token from an exchange, and then you give it to the user, to the staker, right? These are the 3 ways that you can give people APY. The problem, all of these have benefits, right? For minting, the benefit is it's free, technically speaking, right? For you, upfront cost is 0. You are just minting tokens, and that is it. There's no cost for you. That, fine. The problem with that, of course, is you're inflating the market, right? With more tokens into circulation. That can be too much. It can be too many tokens. Also, if the price of the token drops, then of course the value of these rewards will be nothing, pretty much, right? Because they're not backed by anything. You're just minting tokens out of thin air. So those are the pros and cons for this. I would not opt for this unless you're a proof of stake protocol. If you're proof of stake, that's fine. But if you're just rewarding people for staking, don't do this. You're literally just inflating the market. Because remember, as I said, in 6 months' time, I am taking my token plus the yield. This yield will be all the newly inflated tokens, and I am dumping them onto the market, and it's big problems. It's very big problems for you. So I would not recommend this, again, unless you're doing proof of stake. Now for taxes, the main cost is that these guys are your users. They are actively trading on the platform or doing whatever that your product is. They are using what you've built. They are giving you revenue. They are driving volume. They are increasing, they're inviting all their friends. This guy is just staking. Again, it's just me. I'm just there buying the token and staking. I've never even logged in to the platform, right? You are taxing your users to benefit random people. This is terrible. This is genuinely terrible because your users will feel very disheartened. Why are they being taxed for you to reward a completely random person? Doesn't make sense, right? You can apply whatever politics you want to that point, but in this case, it's stupid, right? It does not make any sense whatsoever. If, again, this person is the same as these people, right? If they're all the same, so for example, this person is also a staker, and this person's a staker, and this person's a staker, then this makes sense, right? You're rewarding people, you're just redistributing the revenue, but you have to do it wisely. You have to understand what you're doing. For example, if these guys are trading and you want to tax just any traders, and then you want to redirect the fees to the stakers, but these stakers are not just normal stakers, they're actually your kind of B-book order book, right? They're your liquidity pool for your perpetuals exchange, right? So this is where the money for the leverage comes from, right? These stakers. There's a risk for them, of course. If someone wins big, they lose some of their tokens, of course. But the reward is that whoever trades, all the trading fees go into that pool. Perfect. You have tied your rewards to your actual users, right? You have tied the staking rewards to real utility of the platform, and fine. But again, if you're just rewarding random stakers, don't do that. You're taxing your actual users. Why on earth would you do that? And lastly, the buyback, similar concept, right? But this time, not only are you taxing the users, but also you're losing revenue, right? Like in this case, you're taxing people in the token. So, you're just redirecting the token. You're not going to sell your own token, right, to then make dollars from it, right, to then reinvest into the company. It doesn't really make sense. Here, you are taxing dollars, right? Or maybe you're making revenue from other streams, and then you're using that revenue to buy back the token and once again reward a random person that has never made an account, they have never participated in your product. They're just rewarding absolutely random people. Why? You could have used this money to expand the team. You could have used this money to, I don't know, like invest into research and development. You could have built a whole new platform, maybe a new web page, whatever it is. Maybe you could have done some PR. But instead, you're rewarding a completely random person for absolutely no reason. Not good, right? So this is something else you need to consider. Of course, the whole point here is don't just reward people yield for no reason, right? Like the vast majority of projects do. But if you do, you need to consider where your yield is coming from. You need to understand that each of these three options have pros and cons. And whatever works best for you, works best for you. For example, minting can work best for you if you know that right now you don't have many users, but you have a partnership deal, and as soon as that goes through, you're going to have 100,000 users instantly or something like that, right? Then yes, you can reward people in newly minted tokens because you know that give it 3 months, maybe 2 months, these tokens will have a lot of value. So that's okay. Still not great, but it's okay, it's manageable. Or maybe you know that you're going to get a follow-on investment, which means that you can then use that investment money to buy back the tokens that you have freshly minted, therefore avoiding a crash of your token price. Fine. Depends on your strategy. This one can be fine. Again, if you have aligned the stakers that you're rewarding with your actual protocol in whichever capacity, then it's fine. This makes sense. However, this of course relies on there being people initially to trade for you to tax, right? Or to participate in your protocol for you to tax and then redistribute that. If you don't have those people there, maybe you start off by minting and then you progress onto this system, for instance, right? And of course, you can do this if you're already generating revenue. Maybe you're a Web 2 company that's coming into Web 3. You're already generating revenue. fantastic. Just buy back your own tokens, reward your own users, and and have a nice cycle. However, of course, you need to be generating revenue. If you're not generating revenue, again, see point A and point B, right? So it's pros and cons. Depends on your strategy, depends on how you want to approach everything, depends on your users, your product, etc. This last bonus point, the how, this one is more of a regulatory one. I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me on any of this, but if you're just redistributing rewards, for example, you are making you're making revenue, and then you're giving that revenue to users, that's not great, right? Legally speaking, because it kind of borders on security laws and money transmittance. Again, don't quote me on this, I'm not a lawyer, but you can't just pay people for existing, right? Especially then, because they will buy the token with the expectations of profit from the efforts of the third party in this case being you, and that classes it as a security. People will be buying the token in order to stake it, in order to earn an income, right? And therefore, of course, the token price will that doesn't matter. So you need to make sure that the how is legally compliant. Again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to go into it, but for example, if you have some sort of automated system where if you're taxing, then the smart contract automatically sends the tokens to a pool, right? That is in the gray area. That's okay, because it's automatic. It's not due to the efforts of a third party, which is the company. It's not your choice. It's an automatic process that happens whenever these people are trading and these people are the second party, right? So it's a whole again, not a lawyer, don't quote me on any of that, but the how is very important. You need to speak to a lawyer, get a legal opinion on this. We've designed staking systems that have worked, and we have confirmed them with lawyers that they work, but it very much depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it and who your users are and what pools you have for staking and so on and so forth. So that was staking. Just to high level summarize, if you're proof of stake consensus mechanism, fantastic, you're fine. If you're not, reward people for staking with benefits of the product, discounts, earlier access, access to premium features, whatever it is. If you do want to reward people with yield, with some sort of APY, tie it to the actual product. Like, for example, reward people with yield for staking into a B-book pool, in essence, like the other side of a perpetual exchange, right? Into this liquidity pool. Or reward people for staking into a normal liquidity pool. Or reward people for participating in governance, right? Tie them together. And most importantly, you need to understand where you're going to be rewarding them from. Are you going to be minting new tokens? Are you going to be taxing your users and rewarding these people, right? You need to make sure that these people are also your users. Are you going to be using some of your revenue to buy back the token and redistribute that? And lastly, get a legal opinion. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.